Good afternoon, everyone. It's always good to be here with you. I had to change my surroundings here until my husband gets shades up so I can sit at my little staged office area. But here I am. I'm sure that won't bother you. It only bothers me because it's not as easy and convenient. Anyway, today, before I get rolling with Sophie, I just want to do the usual, talk about what's coming up and what's going on. And we're going to start with, of course, mentioning once again the From Table to Temple event coming up the end of April. We are selling tickets and they're going kind of fast. I've been very pleased that we've been selling quite a few. So you might want to think about that as a Christmas gift, an anniversary gift, just a gift to yourself or to others. But that is going to be a lot of fun. So I want you to check it out. Go to our website for more information and see what you can see. Okay. Oh, before I go there, now I'm missing a slide. So let me go back. I'm missing several slides. But I'm going to bring up this one right now. It's just a QR code. There was supposed to be a beautiful image of fresh baked bread, but things are screwed up. So the reason for that QR code is that next Wednesday at this time, I will be prepping and setting up for a School of Traditional Skills Sourdough Intensive Workshop from 4 until 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We'd love for you to sign up, whether you do a whole membership for all of School of Traditional Skills or just my bread making workshop. That's entirely up to you. But you have to be a member of School of Traditional Skills or to have purchased at least that class in order to participate. And we've got some really cool things. I'm going to do some samples of different grains in different breads so we can see the outcomes utilizing various types of grains to make our breads and our pancakes and so on and so forth. And there will be a special holiday themed recipe. I'll just say it's something pumpkin. We'll be putting that up and we'll be making that together and showing you in that workshop. So hopefully that is something that will interest many of you. The School of Traditional Skills is, of course, a really wonderful resource to learn all kinds of things related to homemaking, homesteading, and cooking and baking and all of that, and doing everything well and properly. So check it out, but please use our QR code because our QR code will take you directly through our website into the School of Traditional Skills to sign up. All right. And let's see. I want to highlight, well, actually what I wanted to highlight today was supposed to have all these cool pictures from when I was at the salt mines. And those pictures I could not get to load onto our server here. They're on my laptop, but I can't show them to you. So I'm going to have to work extra hard and try to figure it out for next week. But I'll just show you some things anyway. When I was at the Redmond salt mines, I think I talked to you for about 2 minutes and promised you more. And the more is, again, sitting on my laptop, unable for me to bring forward and show you. But Redmond sent me a box of goodies to sample, some new products and a lot of really cool things, some of which I already love. And so I'm sharing so people can sample. I'm just going to show you a few of my most favorite things. Of course, this is an everyday staple at our house. It's always by the stove. I keep my shakers full and my little pots full on the table and by the stove. So I primarily do use Redmond real salt as my salt of choice. Sometimes I use Celtic. And they have a variety of really wonderful seasonings as well. And it also smoked salt. We like to use that. This is actually almost gone. So I need to get more of that. Our favorite seasonings are the Wasatch steak seasoning, which we use on burgers, steaks, roast, and everything. And I'm starting to play around with the taco seasoning. If you know me very well at all, you know that I like to make my own spice mixes. But with some of their products, I've just decided why bother? They do such a good job. This is my family's favorite, ultimate favorite. Wasatch comes right behind, very closely behind, but garlic, the seasoned garlic pepper. We use that multiple times a week. And then they've also sent me some new products. I had just been there and purchased another tube of the earth paste, which is definitely one of my most favorite toothpastes. But then I saw that they came out with their new toothpaste, Redmond Leaf, which has hydroxypeptate in it to help rebuild the enamel of your teeth. So I've been using this now for the last couple of weeks, and I really, really love it. So you might want to check that out. And another thing that they sent me is their new facial mud. I used this the other day. It made my skin feel so smooth and good. And I was having a little bit of a problem because I had eaten some things I don't normally eat, and the yuck tried to come out through my skin, my face in particular. And so I used this to draw out some of the toxins that were trying to come out. And when I tell you toxins, we have a local fast food burger joint. It's not a chain. It's not garbage. It's actually very good quality burger, but I like sometimes to get the fries too that are fried in peanut oil. Not a good thing. So Redmond's facial mud, helped me to get that out of my system because it was coming through my skin and it was not pretty. And then, of course, we use Re-Lyte every day. My husband has 2 scoops of this in a bottle of water and a teaspoon of real salt to take him through the day every day. And now they have immunity. So it, in addition to the salts and the electrolytes, it has components in it to help for us to have a strong immune system. And this really cool thing is their chocolate hydration. It's a Re-Lyte formula with chocolate. When we first saw this, we thought, oh, I don't know about that. But of course we had to try it. And we decided that when you mix this in hot water and add a dollop of cream or coconut cream, it is really yummy. So it's a new favorite way to get those electrolytes and salt into our systems. And there's also a Re-Lyte for kids now. I failed to grab that, but that also is fabulous. And all of our grandkids and neighborhood kids love it. So just some new products. If you use code GGT15 when you order, you can get 15% off your order. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. And I'll figure out getting up all those pictures and quite a few videos as well. One of the videos that I have that I would love to show, but again, I can't upload them to StreamYard, is of our guest, Sophie, shooting a bowling ball from a cannon aimed at campers. I don't think any of us hit a single camper, but it was a whole lot of fun. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Sophie. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Maureen.
You have a lot of stuff behind you. What do you have on besides your book?
Oh,
it's
an ever-growing list of books, and it's overflowing. Yeah, I've got the copy of the Nourishing Asian Kitchen here.
And you
Garlic.
have another book coming out soon. Well,
Yes.
Your next book is coming out next year.
Next year.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, it will be. I mean, that's our whole project since we started in 2020 was bringing it farm to table, and Sprinkle with Soil started off as a 2020 pandemic fun project for our family to just document what we were doing in the Bay Area on our 1/4 acre. And for us, it never, at the end of most recipes, you'll see sprinkle with salt. And for us, it never ended with salt. It always went back to the soil. So sprinkle with soil has always been more of the closed loop. And when I was writing the Nourishing Asian Kitchen, my editor had removed a lot of the homesteading aspects outside of the book and said, this is for your next book. And so I just said, okay, fine, we'll keep it just a cookbook. But So
The
that's
next book is more than that.
yes, the next book. So they Chelsea Green Publishing published The Nourishing Asian Kitchen. They came back this past February and asked me to write a more exclusive and all-encompassing book as a sequel to The Nourishing Asian Kitchen. And I said, well, okay, that it will be in the works, but the next book will need to finish that cycle, right? The closed loop. So it will be The Nourishing Asian Homestead.
Okay. That's wonderful. And that brings us right around to our talk today. Sophie and I, we've worked together in more than one kitchen and really enjoyed ourselves. We find that we work together very well. We think alike, we eat alike, we do a lot of things alike. And so we were together at the Jamboree that you
Yes,
and
it was, yeah,
hosted.
Homesteaders United event that we put together.
Yeah. And that was a lot of fun to be together and to actually create a kitchen where there was none and
Yes,
that
that's
you were
right.
working it beautifully. So one of the pictures that I have, oh, it's not all of you. Let me see. I'm going to add this. I'm going to throw this up. It is all of you. Okay, good. Um, we worked in our makeshift kitchen alongside of your mother and your daughters, Emily and Natalie, and we had we had a really good time, didn't we?
We did. We did. We normally work in the kitchen together at home, and you and I have worked really well in the kitchens that we've been at separately outside of the home. Actually, no, I did cook in your kitchen once, and so just to be able to bring our family and you together was just it was a great synergistic place, even though we didn't have what we need and we kept tripping the breakers.
I've only been in one other situation, which was at a Rogue Food in Florida when that kitchen was not properly equipped, but at least it was a kitchen and we blew breakers left and right also. That was a constant theme there, wasn't it?
It was, but I've always been scrappy, and so we made it work. And so I'm glad that you stayed with us,
Yeah.
and we finished strong at that event. Thank you so much, Maureen, for helping us at the Homesteaders United event.
I thank you for inviting me to be part of that because I did really enjoy it. And I really enjoyed working with your mom and the girls and also your friend Danny, who's now my friend too. So we made good connections and we made many happy memories. So I'm thankful for that too. But one of the things that we talked about when we were working together is the very reason that we came together today. And that is, why do we homestead? What brings us to homesteading? What are the important points of homesteading? And you have such a fantastic story that goes all the way back to 2020 that completely, well, it's very inspiring. It should inspire anyone. If you want to talk about that just for a minute, I think we may have the first time we talked together here at God's Good Table on YouTube, but I'd love for you to just go ahead and give a little bit of background again. What brought you to homesteading to begin with? And by the way, everyone, this all relates to health. Every one of our programs relates directly or indirectly to health, and that includes homesteading for both Sophie and I. So Sophie, go ahead and tell your story.
Well, I think it goes back a little bit further than 2020. My parents are immigrants from Vietnam, they're refugees from Vietnam, and my grandparents lived a block away from my childhood home, which my mom and dad still own, and we visit often. But because my parents were worried about making ends meet and they were working two full-time jobs, both of them, my grandparents raised me and a lot of my cousins during that time. But I would stay late after school. My grandpa would pick me up, and he spent a lot of time out in the garden. And we had, a quarter acre. I think my parents and my grandpa didn't have that much land, but he made do. In fact, I need to have a video of my mom's place. She has 17 fruit trees in this small home in San Jose, California, and my grandpa did too. The trees are still there. My mom's best friend ended up buying my grandfather's house, my grandparents' house, and so we still have access to all of his fruit whenever we're back there. But I learned a lot about how we use fish to ferment fish and use it as a natural fertilizer. All of the more organic, beyond organic ways to farm, backyard farming. And a lot of this my grandpa got from when he was back in Vietnam. And so of course, growing up in the Bay Area, I learned how to code before I learned how to cook. I have terrible eyesight because as a fifth grader, I was already coding websites and just something that I really enjoyed and I still very much enjoy today. And so I had an entire career working in tech. I went to college in GW, fast-tracked it, got accepted into GW University in DC, and was part of the 7-year BA/MD program to fast-track that, but then realized that I only took one class in nutrition. And what I learned, it was contradictory to what I had learned growing up. My grandpa had very much like this, bookshelves upon bookshelves of integrative health books, and a lot from Vietnam. I have some of the books here that I inherited, and so I always was more natural, holistic minded. When I became the family, I put in air quotes, I became the family doctor still. So whenever my parents need to go see a doctor, I'm the one that takes them, I translate, and I advocate very heavily for them, and always on the more integrative health side of the aisle. So fast forward to 2020, we had a 1/4 acre in the Bay Area. Prior to March 16th, which was when in California everything shut down in 2020, I had already started a garden. I'd already, started planting seeds. So by the time March had happened and we were in lockdowns in California, we had full shutdown, grocery stores, we're talking restaurants, everything completely closed, and we didn't have any indication as to when things were going to open back up again. So that was when I sat my mom down, and my mom and my dad, and I sat them down and I said, what happened? Because the last time I ever heard stories about lockdowns and curfews was when they told us stories about when they fled Vietnam and Saigon during 1975. And I heard a lot of scary stories about how when anybody had left the home, they would have gotten shot. And so here I was hearing this, and the first intuitive thing that my instincts were, reach out to this woman in Mill Valley. She had already egg-laying hens, and it was 7:30 at night, and I remember how scared I was to leave the house, but we just booked it, went through the Bay Bridge. We picked up 3 hens and brought them home in a cardboard box. We didn't have any infrastructure. We didn't have a chicken coop. We're straight up from the city, no idea what we're doing. But everybody in our family was quarantining at our house. And so here I am responsible for protein all of a sudden overnight, right? I knew I had the vegetables in the garden, but I didn't have a regenerative or a sustainable protein source, which is why eggs were the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
So we did that, and I know it's embarrassing to say, but I am now notoriously known as the girl who bought these egg-laying hens for $300 each. And
That's crazy.
it's crazy, but I needed that. I needed that because on that drive home through the Bay Bridge, I turned to my husband, Tim, and I said, I never, ever want our family to worry about how to feed people off of 3 eggs a day. And I remember March 16, 2023, what we ended up doing was we ended up moving from that 1/4 acre. The next year, we really wanted to double down on more protein, and brought in our first goats and sheep, our first ruminant animals. We got 6 acres in Lincoln, California, which is north of Sacramento. And then because I also do lending, my husband does real estate, I knew that interest rates are going to rise. And I told Tim that if we were ever going to think about moving out of California, we needed to do it now before interest rates went up. And, by the grace of God, we had that wisdom, and crazily enough, within 48 hours, we found a property, move the entire farm over animals and everything to just another 5 acres out here in East Tennessee, I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew because it's a completely new growing environment, even though the Farmer's Almanac said we were in the same zone. But I knew that there was, we were going into the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and there's a lot more microclimates here than there were in California. So I didn't want to take, the 20 acres or whatever that most people, when they think about moving out to Tennessee, they want to jump to 10 to 20 acres. But we didn't want to do that because we weren't sure how homesteading was going to be out here. So we did that for a couple of years and built up our community. And just last October, we ended up listing one of our clients' homes. The 40 acres has a beautiful home here and a garden. And we actually had to compete because Tim listed this house on the market. And
You were not the only bidders then on that.
we weren't, but then I had to outbid everybody, and
Yeah.
and so we are now on 40 acres with our cows. We have a micro dairy now, and yeah. So what I was saying was, 3 years after we bought those hens, I realized that we had traded those 3 hens for 3 dairy cows, and I realized that I wouldn't have been able to jump to the dairy cows if we hadn't started with those expensive hens in 2020.
Those are the most expensive hens that I've ever heard of, but I often reflect on that and think about how even though they were over the top pricey, they were also invaluable to you at the time. And they, not just because they provided you with eggs when everything was so scary, but because it opened the door to more, and it showed you
Right.
that it allowed you to dream and see that you could and should do more. So your story is a lot different than mine, and I find it very inspiring. For me, and the whole idea of this healthy homesteading, when George and I were young married, and we had, I guess we just had Aaron and Taylor at the time, and I was starting to learn more through books and Townsend letters and so on and so forth about nutrition. And I knew that we were not going to get good nutrition from the grocery store. Um, and I won't go into all of the backstory with my mother and what I saw there, but I knew nutrition was important. And for us and our situation, we understood that the only way our kids would be fed very well is if we produced the food ourselves. You saw the need to produce food just to produce food, even
Hmm.
because everything was so uncertain. And for us, it was that we wanted our kids to eat well. We wanted a healthy family. And so we started homesteading.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did the best we could at the time. So I had already eaten, more Weston A. Price when I discovered Weston A. Price, 13 years ago. However old my eldest daughter is, she was the one that really catapulted me into looking into our food.
Yeah.
And so, working full time in the Bay Area, there was no I had no idea that I could, even think about homesteading, right? I mean, the only thing I
Yeah.
did was started getting vegetables into the ground, but I didn't even know homesteading was a term until we
Yeah.
actually, a year or two into it. But we did the best we could, which was buying organic from Whole Foods and then having it delivered to our front door when work was done, and then I would have access to the food and cook some from scratch. So I've always cooked from scratch, and I knew that I needed and I wanted clean food.
Yeah.
I just then in 2017, which is when we started growing our vegetables, was when I realized that Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon, bought Whole Foods. And then I remembered at that point, oh, organic is not organic.
Yep.
And I need to start growing into the ground. So that's why we started growing. And we just started with, on the windowsill, we just had some cilantro and some green onions. So that was the extent of it. And then slowly we got into our broccoli and our cabbages, and we had the fruit trees, but really not to the extent that we're able to grow now, because I honestly thought that I could supplement with the grocery store.
Yeah.
But yeah, we now homestead and grow 100% of our protein and raise our meat, because I no longer trust where anything comes from anymore, even down to our dairy. There's, I did not know that we were going to be running a micro dairy. And the reason why we feel the need to is because even when we moved here and we were asking all of the other micro dairies around here how they were cleaning their machines, what they're feeding the cows while they're being
Wow.
milked, it still is substandard to what I want, even though they may say these are grass-fed, A2, Jersey cattle, but it's just, how are you cleaning the machines? Are you using bleach? Are you using
Oh,
Dawn? And are you feeding them corn and soy? And while they may put them out there on the field, they are still feeding the cows corn and soy while they're milking. And that's just something that I couldn't wrap my head around. And now we have 4 dairy cattle.
one for each of your immediate family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're able to help service our community. Since we are so busy, we work full time. I say we part-time farm because we go really hard on homesteading for about 6 to 8 months out of the year. And by November to at least February, March is when we shut everything down. So we have already dried out our cows. Tim and I just took the kids out and my mom to New York and DC for a week-long trip. It was our 20th year reunion, college reunion. But we're able to do that because, as a homesteader, you think that I felt a lot of guilt by saying that, just that statement that I'm a part-time homesteader, but I go hard at it. We go hard at it for 8 months. As a
No.
homesteader,
Yeah.
people almost, they almost judge you for not doing this as your full-time thing. But
That's
if we
something
did,
you really are anyway, because you're still caring for the cows throughout the winter. You're just not milking.
yes, yeah,
You're
I think,
still, we're supposed to rest in
yes,
the winter. Everyone, including
right.
the cow.
Including the cows, the
Yeah.
mamas. Yeah. And so but we don't want to burn out either. This is
Yeah.
not a lifestyle that we can burn out from. So we make sure the kids, our marriage, our family, that we're able to do things that is still fun for them. I don't want them to miss out on their childhood.
Yeah.
We do game nights with our friends, and we
Really.
take the time to do that, and we just love hanging out together. And that time for rest and restoration right now we love it. I mean, it's colder, but
Yeah.
it keeps us inside. There's a lot of stuff to do still inside the house.
Yes, there is. I know that very well. I only have one child left at home full time, and I'm still always cleaning and always cooking, and a lot more right now because I haven't let our audience know, but I'm filming tomorrow and Friday. We've got some really cool things coming up. So the work is endless. But um, one of the things, or I guess the primary thing that I wanted for people to understand in listening to this and hearing our conversation is, well, it's twofold. One is, anybody can do this. You came from the corporate world and lived on a quarter of an acre in Northern California, and no experience whatsoever. You could do it. And
There's hope.
yeah, there's hope. I came from America's dairy land, and I had farmers in my background in my ancestry, but I certainly did not have any farming background whatsoever, and neither did George. And we didn't have the internet, but we figured it out. We made some mistakes. We learned from our mistakes and we learned to do it. So I want people to understand that anybody can. But even larger than that, I guess, is that I want people to understand the why. And our whys, yours and mine, are similar. They're not identical, but they are similar. And they're the same or similar to many others out there. So, yeah, talk about that.
Oh, my why, our why to homesteading is because there is no other option.
Yeah.
I, as much as, we lead busy lives, Tim and I still work full time. We love what we do. And not only that, we want a balance. I think that if I made a business out of homesteading, if I sold all of our goods, I think I wouldn't be as giving. I think that with all of the tomatoes and all of the extra pumpkin squashes that we had this season, I'm able to just gift them like lemongrass. I can gift these away out of the abundance and feel good about sharing. And our milk, even. Yes, we do sell a few gallons, but mostly I use it to bring the community to us, and we share a lot of whether we're bartering for, or I can't say bartering because it's considered taxable income. So we share with our neighbors, but we are able to get our non-sprayed hay. We are able to get starters, our starter plants. We don't yet have a greenhouse. We're able to share in fresh, natural spring water straight from the mountains from our neighbor. We're able to get raw, unfiltered honey that's local to us right here. And so, like, we don't have to have the pressure of doing everything. If I can just do the one thing, which is dairy right now, and share with others, then it helps me not have to feel the pressure to do everything else. But
Yeah.
also, my why is I cannot trust anything
Yeah.
that comes from the grocery store and even some of the farmers markets, right? Like I was at the farmers market and I was trying to buy some blueberries over the spring and summer. And I asked them if they sprayed. And they said, well, we don't spray the leaves, but we spray the soil. So, I mean, at the end of the day, so I came home and now we have a blueberry orchard.
I do too. I must admit, I have aronia berry and blueberries. Yeah,
Yes.
it's funny. Even like Costco has frozen wild blueberries. People, those are not wild blueberries. Those are cultivated from wild plants, but they're not wild. And I spend a fair amount of time in Maine every year. I see how they
Hmm.
do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can't trust labels. And next week, we're going to actually pre-record a show about labels, about that in particular, because
Yeah.
it is so important. But you're right, we can't trust labels. And then the best food for our family oftentimes ends up being the most expensive. And that was the dilemma that we had. We were on one income, which was very flexible. George had started a business, and we had no guarantee what our paycheck was going to be from week to week. But we knew that we couldn't afford for me to go to the organic natural
Yes.
food store. I would go and get some things, but then I'd have to go to the grocery store. And I didn't even realize then how how poor the quality was, but I knew it was not what it should be.
Right. And I think you and I, being part of Weston A. Price, we get a lot of people that say, well, you can eat that way, but only the elitists, only the elite can eat this way. And to be honest, I eat this way because my mom ate this way. She showed
Yeah,
me how to buy chicken from the farmer. She taught me how to make 4 meals from one chicken. This
yeah,
is the most economical way to eat. It's not cheap to go out to eat. It's not cheap to go out to the grocery store and just buy pre-made meals. It is not for the elite. If in fact, if you are budget minded, what you should be learning to do is cooking from scratch in the kitchen, and you can start with a tomato plant even on your balcony. And
yeah.
that I mean, one, your nutrient density in your food, what you're able to provide for your family is so much more wholesome when you think and know about the quality of the soil that you're raising your animals in and you're growing
Yeah.
your fruits and your vegetables. That is more nutrient dense than whatever you're able to buy from the grocery store. So it's not just about buying food and feeding your family. It's how can I optimize health for myself and my family, and the best and most effective way to do it, if you talk about how to optimize for nutrient density and for your health, is to do it
Yeah.
yourself and do it within community if you can't do it all. And that's what we choose to do because we can't do it all.
No. No, and we
It get
couldn't either. Even with 9 kids, we couldn't do it all. And we enjoyed sharing what we produced. We enjoyed sharing the workload. Sometimes friends would come over and we'd butcher together and make a party out of it. But that's so much more fun than going to the grocery store or going to Costco and picking up chicken. No, because
that's right.
chickens are fun anyway. They're just fun to watch. Uh, so you use the term nutrient dense, and I think that probably Sally was the one who coined that phrase years ago. That is important. Most food is devoid of nutrients, or at least, at best, is missing a large portion of nutrient value that should be there. And if you want to have healthy bodies and healthy children, we have to put the nutrients in. So that term nutrient dense really is important. And there's no guarantee whatsoever that you're going to get that from the grocery store or
No.
from a food store even.
Yes.
And yeah, and the elitist idea.
It fires me up. It makes me so upset because
Yeah.
in people saying that, then those with a larger platform now go out and say you can't eat healthy. It's only for the rich and famous, and it's absolutely the opposite.
Yeah.
This is going back to the way that third world countries, my ancestors, this is how they ate to survive. They didn't have
Right.
access to grocery stores. You can say going to a
Yeah.
discount grocery store is how you're saving money, but what are you truly feeding your children? What are you really feeding, and how are you optimizing for health for your kids? It's not just about filling them up with calories. I was just
That's
at,
what
at
most people do. They're
right,
looking at having full bellies and energy.
right,
But
and
we understand it's more than that.
it is. And actually, when you eat whole, real food, you'll fill up the bellies faster, eating
And longer.
less and
Yeah.
longer. So if you continue to just feed them with useless calories, you're actually wasting more money. You're filling them up. In, you're now introducing more insulin resistance, and this is the reason why that Americans have such a problem with obesity. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say it, but this is like it's hard to take really healthy homesteading advice from a homesteader that is not homesteading for healthy reasons.
Yeah. Because they're not getting the nutrition in today and their children and their family. Um, they're missing, I think people are really missing the point when they take that approach. So eating well does not require a lot of money, necessarily a lot of time, and you don't necessarily have to have 10 acres as you
You
started out on
don't.
an acre.
A quarter an acre will do. And to be honest, I feel like as I am a homeschool teacher. We've been homeschooling our children for the last 10 years, and now I teach them on AI, entrepreneurship, but a lot of it is mindset. And the more
Yeah.
that I realize this, our generation and our future generations, we have a lot of this victim mentality, which
Yeah.
then if you take on this attitude of, I can't do it, I don't have the funds, I just don't have the time to do it, and then you blame the elitists, you blame this and that and the other, then
Yeah.
you're never going to be better. And I'm maybe Maureen, this is just you said we can have an open and honest conversation here. So
Yeah.
I'm just calling it out because it just makes me so upset because parents, if you operate with that kind of mentality, you do have to check yourself because you're not doing your family, your children, any service.
No.
And I think that, I was just talking to Will Winters at the Wise Traditions conference, and we were talking about the bricks refractometers.
Yeah. Yep.
And I got one from him because I have one that we've been using for a while, but it's on Amazon, and I don't really like it all that much, but I trust Will. And,
I do too. Yep.
and so I have one now. He sent it, and I told him, I said, I can't wait to talk about the bricks refractometers. And people are like, what is this? Well, it's the thing. If you are wanting to be healthy, if you're wanting to homestead and have a healthy homestead, you have to be able to measure this. And maybe this is my background in marketing and digital marketing. I have always looked at data and numbers, but
Yeah.
I apply the same optimization with our soil, with what we have in what's growing on our land, and that starts with soil. And if you're not familiar, anybody here, if you're not familiar with the bricks refractometer, what it is you're able to test your fruits and your vegetables to see the level of nutrient density that is in this actual apple or this piece of lettuce or tomato. And how is it able to do that? Well, it is able to test that because of the health of the soil. And so if the soil is good, then you can see how nutrient dense this tomato is. So it's almost like bringing back the tomato-ness of the tomato. Joel talks about the pigness of the pig, right? And it's almost like, well, this is how you measure it. Because over year, we should be testing our soil. We should be looking at what we need to do to improve the health of our soil, to then improve the nutrient density of the vegetables that we're growing on our land, right?
Yeah.
Like the broccoli that you buy in the grocery store is it now takes 20 cups. I think I was reading something. I was like, you now need 20 cups of that same broccoli than what we had our grandmas during their time, where they would just need 1 cup of that broccoli. And that's because our soils are depleted. And so this is really the impetus of why we are writing the Nourishing Asian Homestead, is to talk about how we're able to very cost effectively use the weeds, use the grass, use the greens that's coming from our land. We don't have to buy any inputs for that, and then to ferment it, inoculate it, put it back into the soil. And it's almost like creating Miracle Grow for our soil through creating IMOs, creating lactic acid bacteria, through just raw dairy and the rinsed rice water that we clearly have access to, since we're making rice almost every other day. We have access to that. We have access to our dairy. So it's not like we're not going out to buy other fertilizers and inputs and putting into our soil. We're writing this book because we're putting all of our recipes in there to show you how you can very cost effectively improve the nutrient density of your soil and then therefore your food.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing, because we're trying to grow healthy families here. And I've heard things said like, all of this is fine and good until you have children. And then it's like all out the window because it's too hard, too expensive, too difficult. And I'm just trying to keep my head above water and get through the day. But that is exactly why we should be doing this. And that's why I started it. Georgia and I started 36 years ago. I'm not sure. And even now, while I don't milk a cow, and I just simply can't where we live now, nor can I have sheep or goats, although I really want them. I'm raising chickens, vegetables, herbs, fruit, flowers too, because they're pretty and they're fun and they make you smile. But what better motivation is there to be growing your own food than to have healthy children?
I
And
don't
ourselves too.
This is where I'm talking about the victim mentality and people
Yeah.
using the excuse of, I don't have time. I used to eat this way until I had kids. That breaks my heart. I hope your kids don't hear that because they are the reason why we even started looking into buying organic. Okay. That
Yeah. Same
never
here.
even entered our vocabulary or our shopping budget until we had children. And today, the reason why we go through the effort to homestead is so that we teach the kids, we can provide them with the best quality food that they're not going to be able to buy or get anywhere. And I also want them to learn the skills to do it for them, their future families, if they choose to do this later or not. But at least you know the questions to ask when you are looking to either partner with someone, a farm, if you're not able to do it yourself. But I hope that they would
Yeah.
continue to. And that's why we try to make things fun for them. We try to take them to
Yeah.
escape room games. We take them out to travel with us. And we introduce them to people that we really love and respect and how they're living. And we tell them this is what they're doing well. And unfortunately, we do meet some bad apples along the way, and we say, this is exactly why we don't do this. This is what we want you to learn not to do. So there are
Yeah.
learning experiences in all of this as well, because we want them to see the entire breadth of it. We don't want to just shelter them. We want them to see what good looks like, what bad looks like, and learn and pick and choose.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. Our kids, of all of our children, Erin has no desire to do any of this, but she does grow a lot of things in her from her condo, from her front porch, and her sunroom. But she lives in a condo, so she's not going to be having chickens or anything like that. But she shops at farmers markets and knows the farmers. I think most of our other kids either want to do some or all, or are doing some or all of it for their own children because they, first of all, they weren't burnt out as kids.
Yeah.
They had fun. They were part of all of the processes. They learned to help me in the garden. I was the primary gardener. I enjoyed gardening, but they'd come out with me to get it started in the spring and to harvest and then to take care of putting up in whatever way, usually fermenting or drying. Um, I
Yeah.
mentioned the butchering parties, having friends come
Hmm.
over. Our kids had a solid vested interest in what we
Yeah.
were doing on that farm. They took pride in everything that we did, and they didn't get burnt out.
Right.
I was hoping to find a picture of Aaron and George. I have a picture, it's buried somewhere, but I have a photograph of her on top of a load of hay. She and George were unloading it and stacking it in the little barn that he had built. And that was about as much fun as she had farming because it was not her thing. But she would help me make things and she would help do things in the house. And then the boys had their chores. Everyone had different aspects that they either were in charge of or that they participated in on a regular basis. So homesteading, growing good food, doing things right, but doing it as a family, it produced a quality life, a quality food, quality memories, love between all of us. All of the kids, they learned how to cook as well.
Yeah.
So cook and bake. So they really took ownership of every aspect, but for the most part, they weren't overburdened. There were times and situations where they had to do a lot more than I wish they had to. For instance, if I had a baby, a newborn, I wasn't going out to milk the cow.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I needed help milking the cow, it was the punishment.
Oh no.
For one child who did not like milking the cow. There was a bad attitude. Okay, you can milk the
Yeah.
cow tomorrow morning or whatever.
Yep.
Um,
We do that too, but we say this is what you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to help. And it's, yeah,
yeah,
it's but I try not to use chores as a form of punishment,
Yes.
because I want them to to learn to love it. And I,
Yeah.
I keep referring to this, but there's this book out there called Grit. It's written by Angela Duckworth, and she had the question that she wanted to answer was, what is it in the most successful people in the world? What do they have, and how do we train up our children, our us adults, And the answer that she had was grit. Grit is what, and she studied West Point
Yeah.
cadets at West Point, and really the rigorous aspects of the training. And so for us, that's one of the biggest reasons why we homestead. We try not to like make them hate their lives and break
Yeah.
them down or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
But how else can you teach your children grit? Because they can't learn it through reading a book. It has to be through these micro moments, those moments when it's
Yeah.
snowing outside and you've got to still feed the chickens or you have to feed
Yeah.
the dog. You just have to put up your boots and put on your cold clothes and you have to go through it. You have to figure out, what is it going to take for me to get through this and have a somewhat enjoyable time, but not hate it. And that's what we
Yeah.
try to do. And I think homesteading is a great way too to teach your children grit from a young age and make it so that it's something that they can handle, whatever age group that is. So even if they're young, they can still put the dishes away. They can do that in the morning, which the kids do. They can make their own breakfast and they can ask, what is everybody else eating? What can I serve? And I mean, I guess we are blessed that Tim did come from West Point. So I ask him a lot of questions like, what else did they teach you, and why did they do that, why did they make you do these things? And he would say, well, this was the lesson. And say, okay, well, I don't want to go that far, but there are some things that we can still teach that are great principles to learn, responsibility, integrity, working with integrity and honor.
That is super important, and it's also super lacking today in young people. I think they have like the majority of kids today have like way too easy. Um, I won't, I've had some situations pop up even recently that have had me just shaking my head and going, what are you thinking? We need to be raising kids to work hard and persevere and have grit. That's an important life skill.
Hmm.
And that is very easily accomplished on a homestead when you're doing things right and when you're working together, but assigning duties, assigning chores. We used to rotate chores. There were some things that some of the kids liked doing more than others, and maybe they could take that over.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we shared responsibilities and we rotated chores. But everyone worked, everyone ate, everyone grew up with a really good life, not perfect,
Hmm.
but a really good life. And they have established families of their own now for the most part. And they're doing the same things. They're having their kids work. They're feeding their kids good food. They're being careful about what they take. Sometimes I am literally appalled, and I'm sure you are too, when you see what people are eating and what they're giving their kids. Even even in situations, I'm trying to be careful here, where you think that those children would be eating really good diets, that the parents get it, and they're all working towards the same goals of being healthy and strong. And then you see what people are putting into their bodies and that of their children. And I think you're you're missing the point. You're missing multiple points. In those kinds of cases, if you're making your kids work and you're forcing them to work, they don't love the work
Hmm.
and they don't feel a sense of ownership in it. It's just a
Right.
burden. They're trying to get through the day instead of they're involved in every facet of it and they're all doing the very best that they can to be healthy and strong. Work makes us strong. Instead of going to the gym, work.
Hmm.
and then producing food that you can eat every single day that gives us nutritive value instead of just filling bellies and making happy taste buds for 5 minutes.
Well, it's interesting because now whenever we go back to a large city or we go back home, well, I say home in the Bay Area, if we're ever there and we eat at the same restaurants in LA with just a fun time with a lot of like our Asian food and Asian restaurants that we obviously don't have here
Yeah,
in East Tennessee, going to these same places again, our taste buds have changed.
yeah,
I think that at the end of the day, if you're if you're true foodies, right, and you claim to be a good foodie, it's not all of the ingredients that is put into a dish. Oftentimes the best food, I mean, we make some pretty good steaks here and it starts with the ingredients. It starts with the quality of the ingredients, and all we do is put a little bit of the Redmond salt and some
yeah,
white pepper, and that's pretty much it. There's not really many things that you need to do to your food to make it taste good. And so all of
yeah,
these places that we used to dine at, they still have lines out the door, which Tim and I have just sat back and we're like, well, then do people not know that this doesn't taste good, or is it us now that we've changed? So
I think it's actually both.
maybe
People don't know that
what?
most people don't know what food should taste like.
That's sadly true.
And we change our taste buds. We can change our taste buds so that um, someone was asking me about this just the other day. It came up when I was about, I don't know, 18 or 19 years old. I was not living a good life by any means, but I was living off of Hires root beer and Breyer's vanilla ice cream floats. I ate that every single day. I, I'm sure I ate some other things, but mostly I ate that. Of course,
Yeah,
I wasn't in good health, but I didn't notice it because I didn't know any different. But I was used to sweet
yeah,
and maybe salty. Now I do crave salt sometimes, but I'll get salt from a burger with Redmond salt on it or something, yeah, like you, or a steak. But my taste buds have changed, my husband's have changed, and we've brought our children up with real food, with good food, so they know what good food is.
right. Well, at the Homesteaders United conference that you and I cooked at together,
Yeah.
we were able to feed, I think I calculated over 300 meals with just really the two of us in the kitchen. Now, we had help with my
Oh, yes.
mom and my girls, but
Yeah.
really, I mean, breakfast was all of the gallons of yogurt that I made
Yep.
days in advance and brought them over, and we fed everybody with that. We had granola, we had fresh fruit, and it doesn't cost
Yeah.
much, right?
No,
Like,
it doesn't. How about sprouted or soaked oatmeal?
right. And
And
it's super easy, it's super fast, and if you make a large batch at a time, which I think I made 6 gallons of Vietnamese yogurt, which all sold
oh,
out, but I
wonderful.
made that ahead of time, and then it sat in the fridge, and then we brought it over, and then when we served it, it didn't take us any extra time in the morning. So
Mm.
this idea of like it costs too much, it takes too
It
much
takes
time
too
to
much
cook.
time.
Yeah, it's just really you need to get over those excuses that you
Yeah.
don't have time. And if it was important enough for you, if it was your non-negotiable, you would find time to do it. And I think that was the moment for me, the switch of it's a non-negotiable because I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust
Yeah.
anybody anymore. And the quality of the food that I'm able to get into the grocery store, then I have to do it for me and my family. And
Yeah.
when you have that mindset of it's a non-negotiable, I have no other option, this has to work, then you would plan to get it done ahead of time. We ended up feeding over 300 meals.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's
And in less than easy environment to do so.
exactly. And
With
yeah, so yeah, when we had bread and we had sourdough bread, we had butter,
Yeah.
we had ghee, And your oatmeal was, we just love your oatmeal. We loved it from Polyface. So
It's so easy, and then I like to do scrambled eggs too, or my favorite is French creamed eggs, and I'll do that
yeah,
often. If I haven't made them for you, I'll make sure that
yeah,
when you come up in hopefully in January, I will.
yeah,
Um, I think that really the crux of it, you said something a moment ago, and I'm trying to remember what exactly. Oh, non-negotiable.
yeah,
I, if there's one thing that I want as a takeaway for anyone listening to this, especially people with children, understand and hopefully get to that point where you understand that it should be a non-negotiable to feed your family well. Um, I wanted children who were strong and healthy and resilient, who could go through childhood illnesses, for instance, and recover and be fine. Last week we interviewed Dr. T, and that was a wonderful interview. Go listen to it if you haven't already. But I understood eventually that if my children were to be healthy and strong and resilient, it required them eating very good quality food, first of all, and working with their bodies. The
yeah,
two go together. That's why we homesteaded. That's really the crux of what you're doing as well. And we need to get to the point of understanding that it is not negotiable. We need to, we are a sick culture in many ways, including mentally, of course, and socially.
hmm, yeah,
We, it doesn't have to be that way for our families.
right.
My kids grew up without acne. You know, if they had a pimple, they would be upset. Pimple. Oh, there's one right here. And I'm looking around at their friends who have lots of pimples, or poor girls who have acne or rosacea or this or that. And then they have food intolerances and they have diabetes and this and that and all kinds of struggles. And I didn't want that for my family. And it doesn't have to be that way. And
Yeah.
that's the point, isn't it? It
I
doesn't have to be that way.
it doesn't have to be. It is not hard. It does not take a lot of time, and it does not take a lot of money. If and going back to your point, Maureen, it's it's embarrassing to say, but if someone like me can do it, then there really is no excuse. I
Yeah.
think because with our schedule the way it is, we're in sandwich generation. I've got my parents to take care of. I also have young children and I have a
Yeah.
teenager as well. So like I'm trying to maximize the most time I have with them, making sure that they're learning the skills, but also keeping them in tip-top shape, not just mentally, physically, but like
Emotionally. Oh,
emotionally as well and
yeah.
spiritually.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you know healthy homesteading can look different for a lot of people. For us, we go hard for 6 to 8 months. We go very, very hard from like March to, I'd say, October is when we start to even think about slowing down.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when we do all of our dairy, and then because we're swimming in milk, we raise our meat chickens, and so we do it
Yeah.
all hard in the spring. We do then all of the harvesting and the preserving in the summer and the end of summer. And then November, December, no, we really look forward to November now because we shut everything down. We start harvesting the rest of our animals. And so it saves us on keeping them sheltered, feeding them over the winter, extra hay, anything like that. And those are the larger ruminants. And
Yeah.
then really it's spending the time with the kids inside the house, and that's when we're cooking we're already starting. I ate pho right before our call. I'm
I'm
like,
by the way.
yeah, I mean, but it's like
Yeah.
it's soup season. We're eating
Yeah.
together, and then we go about our business, right, the rest of the day. But
Yeah.
I think that I hear from a lot of families everything that we talked about here, um, which just to me just sounds like excuses at the end of the day. I know it's
Yeah.
hard. I'm not saying it's easy at all, but if you approach this lifestyle like you had no other option but to figure out how to make this work, you and if your health and your children's health, if it mattered. One of our parenting mentors, when at least 10 years ago, she told us in terms of behaviors, right? If you don't fix this now, if you don't nip this in the butt now, it's either pay me now or pay me later. And I said,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to nip this in the butt now. I don't want to deal with this when they're teenagers. And it's the same concept with our health, right? You either pay now or you pay later. Either way, you're going to pay. We're dealing
Yep.
with my dad's dementia right now, and we're paying later for him. And I don't want that for me. I don't want that on my kids. I don't want that burden on them. And I certainly don't want that for them either. I'm watching this degradation happen. And until you see that, maybe that's what it takes for some people to see that, like volunteer and see what people are going through, the obesity, the they now call dementia as the third type 3 diabetes.
Yeah.
And so it all comes back to what we're feeding our children now. And people are saying dementia actually starts when you're 40s and your 50s. It's just a slow degradation over time. Well, heck, I'm in my 40s now. So how is it, if I knew that, then why wouldn't I start earlier for my children? Why, if I know this now, how can I possibly do worse? Like, if you know better, you have to do better.
Yeah, I agree. And so we do know better and we will do better. And hopefully this conversation encourages others to do the same. It matters.
I hope so.
It does matter. And people are starting to get it. So let's not use excuses. No excuses whatsoever. Not children, not work. There's no excuse. There's just no excuse. So I still do just as much cooking almost now as I did when I had all the kids at home, because I also cook for others and I share, but I teach. So I'm still doing a lot of cooking, and I'm working on regaining the health, helping my husband to regain his health. And that is really time consuming.
Yeah.
And he likes the fuss.
And he looks so good.
He's looking better and he's feeling better. Yes.
Good. Yes.
And this week he was grateful for some of the girls' spice mix.
Oh.
I've got more chicken stock on the stove now, although it's different seasonings this time. But when you batch cook and you do everything from scratch and you don't make everything fancy, you can do it. Anybody can do it. I'm the same way. I did not know how to cook when we got married. I didn't know anything. There weren't books on homesteading. It wasn't a thing. But we figured it out because it was important. And that's the takeaway here. It's worth the effort to learn and to just do and stop making excuses.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, Sophie, it's been wonderful. We have some things in the works, you and I, for next year. So we'll be talking more about some of that later, but including a couple of retreats.
That's
And
right.
we do have some interest in Maine, but we're
Great.
talking about Tennessee first. So you and I will meet about that later. But for our friends listening, we will be doing a couple of retreats where we'll be cooking with you. We'll be having devotions. We'll be having bonding time and doing a lot of really good things. So we'll keep everyone informed about that. And just looking forward to more. So I'm going to sign off for now, but I want to mention quickly, first of all, Sophie, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Maureen, for having me on your show again. It's always an honor.
We're going to come back and talk about your book once it's ready. So
Yes. Sounds great. Thank you.
all right, so hang on tight. I'll be right back to you. So friends, just a reminder about the School of Traditional Skills class that's coming up next Wednesday from 4 until 6 p.m. Eastern time. There's the QR code for that. And let's see, I'm going to take Sophie back. We, as I mentioned, have some really cool things going on. We have a videographer friend coming up tomorrow, actually, and we're going to be filming a fermented condiments course tomorrow afternoon. And then That will be available on our website for a nominal charge. And then on Friday all day, I'm filming with a chiropractor friend. We're filming 4 separate parts, all about health and nutrition and how to heal. It's something that we're going to share on both of our websites and his clients and our friends here. We're really excited about that. We're going to be talking about healing foods and foods that harm and foods that heal. We're going to go through making a few things and have some really good discussions. So be on the lookout for that. We're really excited about that to come up. And I mentioned briefly that next week we will have a pre-recorded show, which is about labels. I've been really wanting to delve into labels. And as Sophie and I briefly touched on in this conversation as well, we cannot trust labels at all. So we're going to talk about that. But if you have any questions pertaining to labels, labeling, please do send them to us, hello@godsgoodtable.com, or comment at the end of this video, and we'll take those questions, and I will be addressing all of those and try to provide good answers and guidance for everyone, because it's a really confusing topic. All right, so for now, I'm going to sign off, but you guys have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, like, subscribe, share. Thank you. Bye-bye.